on this first beautiful day where it was supposed to rain 60% today and it's turned into a gorgeous afternoon.
Well, it's great to have great weather, right? The
Yep.
players love it. They got great conditions. Although Kevin Streelman said that the greens were a little bit hard, so they weren't as receptive as you might have thought because of the wetness we have in the air, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is, these guys, I think, in general, are relaxed coming here because when you play in a major the week
The
before,
U.S. Open.
you're grinding. You are grinding to just make par. And you got to hit a lot of difficult shots because that's the way it's set up. So they get here, and it's familiar to them. A lot of guys have been here many times. And it makes for better golf. You know, if you can relax in whatever you're doing athletically, you're going to be better at
Right.
it. You take out those 6 inches between the ears and don't have to worry about stuff, and you're just better at whatever you're doing. And I saw that in Keegan Bradley. He ripped off 6 straight birdies today, started on the back 9. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then he had one bogey, and he wraps it up with 8 under par 62. That's a great start. That doesn't mean he's going to win the tournament because someone else can shoot 62 tomorrow.
Right.
And you got Shane Lowry out there who's playing well. You got Kevin Streelman who's won here before. He's
Minus
playing
5. He's tied
Yeah.
for fifth right
Yeah,
now.
you want to stay within 3-4 shots of the lead, but it's only one round. But I love the way Bradley's playing. He seems very loose, very relaxed. He's a familiar guy. He went to St. John's, a Vermont guy. He loves playing in New England. And he's just the kind of guy that, boy, he might be able to hold on for 4 rounds. I don't know. There are a lot of great players out here. What do we got? 38 out of the top 50 here. It's
and
amazing.
70 out of the top 77 in
Yeah,
the top
the
100
top 8
that
in the
could be here.
world.
Right.
And
Patrick Cantlay is at minus 5. We've got 6 guys that are at minus 5 right now. Thigala, who is finished at 4 under. That's another guy that we root for hard, and I think that was Ben's pick to win it. But, I mean, listen, the first day, the second day, you're just trying to qualify. I mean, and qualify for the weekend. I think those are the 2 toughest days because you're trying to get low numbers. And I think you could move a lot on Saturday here, but they're expecting a lot of rain this weekend. I don't consider the future forecast because every 15 minutes the weather changes around here. This morning it looked like thunderstorms all day. By 1 o'clock this afternoon, no clouds in the sky. It's beautiful out here right now. It's just a little bit of overcast clouding right now, but it's gorgeous at about 72 degrees.
Yeah, the one thing you notice is the wind's kicking up, Rob.
Yeah, and like you
golfers
said that,
don't love
right.
that.
No.
They don't love that because that's a factor that is difficult to deal with. You got to estimate where do I have to hit the ball and to fade it in or to draw it into the position on the green where I can make something happen. So the wind kicking up, you're seeing weather become an issue a little bit. But this is a gettable golf course. It's a par 70, 6,852 yards, one of the shortest they play. It requires different kinds of shots. But, one of the fun holes we were looking a lot at today was the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
You know that one.
Yeah.
301 yards today. Justin Thomas hit it in the water on the left. Guys make double bogeys all the time on that hole. And, yeah, they make maybe twice as many birdies, but surprisingly, a lot of people par that. So par 4. I saw Emiliano Grillo hit the green, stuck on the green, and 3-putt it for a 4.
Right.
You talk about frustration. Yeah, that is frustrating when you are in position like that, and it takes you 3 putts, and you walk away with a 4.
Well, and we're going to talk to Brett Stegmeyer later, and I already did the interview, and one of the things he talked about that, at one hole the wind was behind him, the next hole the wind was blowing left to right, and that affected him because in his practice round in Pro-Am yesterday, it was a totally different wind. So from day to day, the conditions are changing here. I mean, right now it's looking like on Friday, 60% chance of rain. Saturday, 70% chance of rain. Now, this could all change. And then Sunday, it went from 60% chance of rain to just cloudy.
Yeah.
So that's all happened in the last 24 hours. So I'm not going by the forecast other than the fact that, like you said, the wind dries out the greens. These guys like to stick greens. Maybe if they had a little bit of moisture, maybe it'll help some of these guys. And
Yeah.
it has in the past. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I think the lowest numbers I've seen are when it's like raining and really bad rain conditions out.
Yeah, I thought this morning were ideal scoring conditions. It was very calm, overcast. It looked as if the course was going to be, very gettable. And Keegan Bradley took advantage of that. He got out early, 7 o'clock tee time, I think it was, and shoots 8 under par. So, tomorrow Keegan will tee off around noon or thereabouts, and they flip-flop the groups. So the folks who got off early today will be teeing off at noon or in the afternoon tomorrow. So sometimes the weather factor affects scoring. I mean,
absolutely,
and maybe affects the cut line. So all of that remains to be seen, obviously. But it's great to get this thing underway. The crowd was not super big this morning when I got here.
Because probably the weather.
Yeah,
it
was
were
8
worried
o'clock.
About their weather. That's right.
It was 8 o'clock. I'm walking around.
It's a Thursday. A lot of people are still working.
Absolutely. But by the time I came back around 12, 15, whatever the heck it was, this place was jamming. So that's what we all love. We love the crowds. The players love it. When you have that much attention focused on a Thursday and a Friday and a PGA Tour stop, the players are going to play to their ultimate level because they love that. I mean, they love playing in front of crowds. That's why they do it for many of them.
All right, perfect guy to have here. You work many, many years for the New York Knicks. The NBA draft is tonight. Mike Crispino is filling in for Ben Darnell today. And what are the teams doing here? I mean, the draft starts at 8 o'clock. The San Antonio Spurs have the number 1 overall pick. What are they doing with this last-minute stuff? Or do they already know who they're going to pick? And 2, 3, 4, 5? Are they already pretty much have that on their draft board?
I think they do. I think the top teams do. But I think there could be trades. I mean, the Pistons could move the 5th pick. It's not a deep draft, by all accounts. Maybe the top 3, San Antonio Spurs, Charlotte Hornets, Portland Trail Blazers, will get legitimate players that can help them immediately. But after that, Houston has the 4th pick. Detroit has the 5th. We've heard that they might try to move it. They're trying to, improve a team that has been in the dumps for a while. You can't always do that with a young team. And they had some good young players, but they haven't been able to make any progress in terms of record and success. That's why the Pistons might be open to making a move. The Wizards are decomposing their roster as we speak, right? They traded Kristaps Porzingis to Boston. And
I want to ask you about that. Marcus Smart is going to go to Memphis. Porzingis, 7'3". He's out of Latvia, and the big thing about this guy is keeping him healthy. I mean, he averages 24 points a game, big rebounder, around 10 rebounds a game. That would really impact the Celtics. They need that guy.
They do. They need some three-point shooting. They need some perimeter attack. But we had him in New York. We got
shoots nearly 40% from 3.
Yeah, he's a good shooter. He averaged over 23 points a game for the Wizards. But I always look at averages for guys on bad teams, and I say, well, he might have averaged that many points, but he didn't help them win much. So I don't want to discount it, but I don't think he is what people may think he is. Because with the Knicks, he was going to be a guy to maybe save the franchise and get it back up on his feet.
That's a lot of pressure, though, Mike. Don't you think when they did that to that kid?
And he didn't like it. He didn't like the role. He wanted to be relaxed. He was a European guy. A lot of European guys are different than we are. He was a good guy, though, and I remember feeling kind of bad for Porzingis because Knicks fans were so desperate for something good to happen. It had been a really long time between good things happening.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do well. He wanted to uplift the franchise, but it wasn't happening. And what you see with a player like him, he's not I don't want to break any hearts in Boston here with this one, but he is not a big 3 kind of player. He'd be a nice number 4 guy on your roster. I mean, I'm thinking of the Denver Nuggets, for instance. If they had a guy like him on their roster, how much better would they even be? But he's not going to uplift your franchise like you think a great player might be able to do. So I don't understand the Celtics doing this. I really don't. I think Marcus Smart is an MVP for them.
Well, that's where I was going next, Mike. Tell me about losing. I don't know. I think he's the leader. Or Al Horford are your 2 leaders, and you lose that guy now. He has been there for 7, 8, 9 years. That's going to be a tough replacement ego-wise in that locker room.
Yes, and how many guys play defense like him? Not many.
No,
they're hard to find.
He's a lockdown defender.
They're hard to find, And I know he's a kind of an erratic three-point shooter. Celtics fans are
I don't need him to win games with threes. I need him to lock somebody down.
Yeah, if you could have gotten Porzingis without giving up Marcus Smart, that would have been tremendous, but they didn't do it. The thing about Marcus Smart is he is kind of the bellwether of your team emotionally. And I'm just wondering in the locker room if there might have started to be some friction among, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart because they were so close. Think about it. Conference finals a couple of times. And Brad Stevens had them right there. They couldn't get to the finals. And those guys, you start looking around and you start asking, why aren't we there? We're this close.
Right.
And sometimes you blame your teammates. I don't know. You can speak to that. Tell me about it. Because when you're that close to being great, but you can't quite get there, what happens in that locker room? Do guys start getting frustrated? Do they start not pointing fingers, but looking for reasons why this isn't happening?
Well, I mean, first of all, you had the Udoka thing that really devastated that locker room, and now we've got to go in a different direction. And I thought that the direction Joe Mazzulla was a great switch, but when you start taking away the veteran, when we lost Paul O'Neill, and he went to the Yankees, we got Roberto Kelly in return. Robbie, I played with him in winter ball, great player, not Paul O'Neill though. Paul, like two totally polar opposite egos. Two totally polar opposite guys that Paul snapped all the time. Paul was the kind of guy who was a perfectionist, and he kept you on your toes. And I love that about him. I mean, we're best friends to this day because he's such a good guy. And, that totally changed our team, And so when you start taking pieces like that away and the next one doesn't gel better than the first one, it's disheartening. And so, like you just said, we won a world championship, and we went backwards the next year. We finished 5th the next year. A lot of injuries. Guys went free agent, didn't re-sign them, and the owner got cheap quickly. So I think that, the Celtics are trying to retool and get better, but, is he that much better than Robert Williams? Is he going to be, like you said, is he going to be such a huge offensive weapon, but what's he going to do on defense? I mean, those are some of the things I look and so guys understand that. It's like, the Edwin Diaz injury to the Mets. Everybody else has to do something differently now. Everybody in the bullpen has to step up their game. Everybody in the rotation feels the pressure. The offense feels – so just one injury did that to the Mets this year. So think about now Marcus Smart. Now they're talking about getting rid of Brogdon too, one of the best 6 men in the game. So now you're talking about another, a voice in that locker room, a guy that you're counting on to win you a championship, and now all of a sudden, it's addition by subtraction. So a lot of things could go wrong.
I agree. I think this deal moving Marcus Smart is going to hurt the Celtics. I do not think they'll be as good next year. Porzingis will provide maybe 20 points. He'll get him some more boards. He'll block a few shots. But I think they're going to miss Marcus Smart's his grit, his blue-collar attitude.
He's a grinder too, man.
Yeah, there's certain guys that stir the pot a little bit. And I know Marcus, I know a lot of folks in Boston who are Celtics fans and broadcast people. The thing about the guy is he gets you on edge, as you know. Sometimes those guys push you over the edge, and you can't stand them anymore.
Now think about Tatum and Brown, 2 guys that came up while Marcus was still here. They probably turned to Marcus and Al Horford to be their mentors. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's the guy that he meant the most to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, now you don't – it's like Linus and his blanket. That's my security blanket. That happened to me. Eric Davis was my guy. Norm Charlton was another one of my guys. Once you let those guys, you traded one of them and the other guy went free agent, I was like, man, I'm lost without those guys. So it totally it can change your attitude on is this a job now or was this still fun? Because I couldn't wait to see that guy. Not everybody's going to get along with Porzingis. When they brought in Kyrie Irving, what a tool that guy was, and then he turned on them on top of it. So it's like
brutal.
He may have been a great player, but sometimes you bring in the wrong piece as far as ego-wise in that locker room that doesn't fit. Totally disrupted what they were doing.
You cannot underestimate chemistry.
Oh,
if you are a general manager,
even today's worst,
president of a team, because guess what?
Yep.
There's a certain way that people fit together and the way they work on an athletic endeavor, whatever it may be. You cannot underestimate chemistry. And I think if they trade Brogdon too, the Celtics are really disrupting their chemistry. I know the management probably feels under pressure to make some things happen. Get us to the finals. We're close. But I don't know. This is not the kind of move that'll get that to happen.
All right, assess this. Chris Paul was just traded to the Wizards, and now the Wizards want to trade him to the Clippers. So, what's that? Adrian Wojnarowski is breaking this story right now. But why we're doing all this stuff ahead of the draft?
Yes.
You said that there's going to be a lot of trades. There's going to be a lot of shuffling of lineups and things like that. Chris Paul. Honestly, I'd rather have Chris Paul on the Celtics than Porzingis. What do you think?
I like that. I do. I think Chris Paul's still got a little life in him. He's had a long career now. He's in his mid-30s. He plays a lot of minutes. He had a great run with Phoenix. Clippers, he was successful too. But the thing about Chris Paul, and the reason I think they're making that deal, if it actually comes to fruition, is
now he's saying that he might go to the Golden State Warriors for Jordan Poole. Now, Remember, one of the reasons Draymond Green doesn't want to go back to Golden State was the fight that they had in training camp, Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. So maybe they're trying to get Draymond Green to come back and not leave.
That might be it. Well, I mean,
so if we get rid of Jordan Poole, who just signed a nice contract,
Jordan Poole's a very good player.
He is a very good player.
I
would say the Wizards would win that one by sending Chris Paul that way.
Yes, I would agree with that. But there's something about Draymond Green. They gave him a lot of money. I don't think the Warriors are that happy with him, to be honest. I think they're ready to move away from him. So I'm not sure they're sitting there, we got to please Draymond Green by trading Jordan Poole. I don't see that. But Chris Paul is still valuable, as I say. And I think here's another thing I talked to a couple of buddies in New York about. The Knicks are interested in Paul George, and there could be something there where the Clippers are going to trade Paul George to New York and then replace him again with Chris Paul, because you need scoring, you need playmaking. You can't get rid of Paul George, even though he's been injured. He played 56 games this year, so he's had his issues. But you get rid of a guy like that, that's a major part of your offense.
Absolutely.
You've got to find somebody who's going to generate offense for you. So, I mean, I think a lot of things could happen here. As I said, Paul George is being looked at by the Knicks, and the Knicks have a lot of assets. They have things to move, and they need to make a move to get some help for Jalen Brunson. They cannot ask Jalen Brunson to play 40, 42 minutes every night. That would be a real problem.
All right, you didn't break this story. You probably should have. Dan Hurley is signing a $33 million extension for 6 years with the University of Connecticut. That averages about 5.5. He'll be one of the highest paid college basketball coaches in men's college basketball. What do you think of the deal?
First of all, I think it's 31.5.
Well, it's 31.5, but it can.
Incentives
can make it go up to 33, and I think he'll meet those incentives.
Well, listen,
even if it is 31.
He's a program builder. He's done it 3 times. He's proven he can coach on a high level against the best teams in the country and the best conference in the country. And it's time to secure him. I mean, you can't let him float around out there and think about going somewhere else.
No, he totally deserves it.
Yeah, and I think, if there's anybody.
I'm just surprised that UConn forked over the money.
Well, listen, you know how important a basketball program is.
I'm from here, man. I'm from here. I
know how
these
important
people.
a basketball program is.
I know. David Benedict did a great job there.
Yeah, he had
nice
to jump
job,
on
David.
it. He had to jump on it because you don't want any question to be raised. But the thing I think about Dan, and I'm sure of this, he will not rest. He will not rest on his laurels.
No.
He will continually, year after year after year, try to pump up that roster, coach him up as best as he can and his staff can, and that's a pretty good staff, by the way. Keeping that staff together is not a bad idea either. I'm sure they're talking about that. So those guys, I'm a big admirer of their work ethic. They don't rest. They do not leave any open doors. They try to nail everything down, and they proved it, I think, in the way they coached in that NCAA tournament. They outcoached everybody. They outplayed everybody. They won the national championship. That, to me, was a real proving ground. After Dan and the Huskies had lost 2 years in a row in their first outing in the tournament. I mean, they could not afford that again.
Oh, God,
There's a lot of pressure in there. And so they answered the questions about pressure. They answered the questions about how to improve your tournament play to the point of reaching the very top. And he deserves it, no doubt.
Mike Crispino filling in for Ben Darnell. Ben and I caught up with Chris Daly, the associate head coach of UConn women's basketball, right at the end of the show. You may have missed it, so we're going to replay it for you next. She even talked about Dan Hurley and how happy she was for him winning the national championship and what a great coach he is. So Chris Daly will join us next live from the Travelers radio deck, brought to you by Big Y.